I think it's good to have an unpopular opinion because that means you're not just following the crowd. You're thinking for yourself. The late, great Kobe Bean Bryant said that, and I'm saying this. Welcome to High and Low. Good day and good night. Welcome to the High and Low Basketball Podcast. This is episode number 100 and Rice, aka episode number 141. 41, of course, was the number worn by NBA legend and Michigan Wolverine alum Glenn Rice Sr. Long before the league's landscape was ruled by the three, there was a 6'8" small forward by the name of Glenn Rice who was raining trays on a nightly basis. Rice was a 40% three-point shooter for his career and once averaged 47% from behind the arc back in the 96-97 season when he scored 27 a game for the Charlotte Hornets. Glenn Rice is one of those players who was way ahead of his time, in my opinion, but definitely a victim of being in the right place at the wrong time. I mean, he's 38th on the all-time list for three-pointers, but only because he played in systems where the three was just the last option, basically the bailout play. If Glenn Rice played in today's NBA, I just feel like he would feast. He'd just be a monster. 6'8", man. He was a big player. Many had hoped his son, Glenn Rice Jr., would continue the legacy, but he only played for 2 seasons in Washington before exiting the league. Yeah. Anyway, my name is Ike Amaechi, and I'm joined by King from Parts Unknown and Ugo the Sheik. Around here, we live by a principle governed by the high and low lives of the world, which means we talk about basketball, especially and specifically the NBA, and we talk about it at any time, anywhere, north, south, east, west, high and low. This week on the show, we'll get into some interesting NBA business. Before we get into the meat of the episode, we're sharing unpopular NBA opinions today. This segment comes with a trigger warning, folks. We will not be holding back and sharing takes that everyone hate, but seem to, they just seem to keep resurfacing like my high school math teacher's mouth herpes. Stay tuned for those unpopular opinions. Before we lock in, let's check in. King is back at the table this week. And special guest Ugo the Sheik is back with us. Give this man a round of applause. Applause in the back. Clap, clap, clap. You were in Jamaica, my friend. How was that?
It was a good trip. Well timed for me. It was a good trip. If you've never gone, you guys need to go and check out Rick's Cafe, where they do some sort of cliff diving type thing. I didn't do it because black people don't swim. And I went to a club spot named Pier 1. Very, very good. Highly recommended. If you like excessive derrieres, that's where you want to go.
So did you see anyone do it poorly and land flat?
Not like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. A couple of people didn't do it properly, and they hurt their feet. They actually said when you jump, because I think there's one spot that it's like a 50-foot drop. Yeah. And they say that if you don't go straight down, you can actually hurt your back hitting the water. So that's why it's like, nope, not for me. Yeah, it's crazy. So at this spot, it's funny, right? Because they have a 50-foot, and they say if you can't do the 50, you can go down these stairs and do this one that's like 45. And I'm like, hey,
45.
What's the difference? Like that's not a considerable difference. And then there's one that's really, really low. That's like, I think like maybe 10, 12 feet, which I couldn't do that one either. I was talking to this thing and she was telling me about why I should do it. And then I was like, no, black people don't swim. And I just said,
so. You're not worried about the jump. You're worried about what happens afterwards when you're in the water.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? And this is the poor logic I had in my head, right? Man, that's like about like jumping up and grabbing the rim. I used to do that back in the day. That's nothing. I could swim that. That's easy. Nope. I said, nope. Couldn't bother. Walked away.
Oh, man. Yo, King, you and I, we know someone who took a bit of a dive and hurt themselves.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, because I know two people that really shouldn't be doing that. It's dangerous.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It rips things.
I don't want to know what ripped off. As long as the doctors put it back on, that's all I want to care.
That's rough, man. It's rough.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, none of those places that Ugo mentioned are sponsors. So
Don't go.
but, it's good.
We can work
it's
on
good
it
to get those recommendations. Ugo, King, I appreciate your time this week. Thank you for joining me. Listeners, thank you for joining us for yet another installment of the program. Another week, another episode, more NBA, some more high and low. This week in NBA history, the mailman delivered. Uh-oh. Mitch is going to love this segment. On January 30th, 2002, Karl Malone, he scored 18 points in a 90-78 win over the Chicago Bulls and became the second player in NBA history to score 34,000 points. The first player was, of course, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. As mentioned last episode, LeBron James is knocking on Kareem's door, edging closer and closer to that all-time points record. He might even break it by the time this episode comes out. Mitch and King seemed unimpressed and unwavering in their opinions of LeBron, regardless of how many points he scores in his career. Actually, I wonder how popular or unpopular of an opinion that is, because I've talked to some NBA fans who already have LeBron at number one. And some put him at number one if he passes Kareem. And then there are many that agree with King and Mitch and say there's no way that he could be considered the best over Michael Jordan. Ugo, do you think it matters?
There's one way he could be considered the best, right? And it's sort of the cheap way of doing it. If you just put the word statistically, right? The best player. Then, and that's what a lot of the people who are arguing are going by, right? More points, more assists, more rebounds. They always forget the more championships and MVPs and all that other shit. But, they go by the stats, right? Statistically, yes, he is the best ever, right? But best player? Well, that's where you're allowed to be a little bit more subjective and, talk about Michael Jordan, the standard.
Stats don't mean anything. Stats evolve over time, so it's not a even playing field. So you have to be subjective. You can't just make a statistical analysis of who's the best basketball player. It's impossible. There's no stat that takes into consideration time. Yeah, but there's no
buckets are buckets, rebounds are rebounds.
But it's a moving target. It's a moving target. If the target's moving, you can't make any kind of statistical analysis. It has to be subjective.
Think about it this way.
The league's evolving.
When Kareem got that over 38,000 points, right? Nobody thought that anybody was going to be able to touch that because he played for so long. Now, mind you, the end of Kareem's career wasn't that spectacular, right? But nobody thought that anybody would be able to touch that. Like, the only person close enough was Wilt, and rest his soul, didn't play that long, didn't last that long. But LeBron is basically maintained since the day he's walked into the league, right? It's a hard thing to do, let alone pass it, right? So
there were no oxygen chambers back then for Wilt, and the league is different
again,
now.
yes.
It's not an even playing field. You have to be subjective.
But the number was so high, and it stood for so long. They're going to give him credit for breaking it, regardless if he's in an oxygen tank or
you can get credit. You can get credit for it, but you can't be. You can get credit for it, but you can't be told you're the best. You can get a little bit
statistically.
By the way, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played 20 seasons. 20. Same as LeBron.
LeBron's on one. Yeah. Okay. So there you go.
Yeah.
So it still says something. I mean, Kareem in the early years, he was beasting, right? Because don't forget his end with the Lakers. They won chips, but he wasn't like.
All right. Well,
I don't even know he was even breaking 20 a game back then.
Oh no, he averaged 10 a game in his final season with the Lakers.
Yeah. Right.
So speaking of statistics. So we all know Jordan lost many seasons to retirement on, I think he retired 3 different times, actually. Analytics nerds have crunched the numbers, and I think I mentioned this on the podcast before. They say that Jordan would have scored over 41,000 points if he hadn't retired in 93 and 98. So take that for what it is.
I have an off-the-record unpopular take about what happened to Jordan and why he retired, but we'll save that.
We all know the conspiracy theory. He was suspended.
You do know. Good.
We'll get to the unpopular opinions soon. That's a little something for the NBA history nerds. Things are certainly happening in the NBA today, so let's talk about it.
Let's talk about something important.
I have a question from Taylor in Montreal, Quebec. Hey, shout out to all the old friends from past lives in Montreal, man. Love that city. Oh my goodness, I love that city. King, don't you love that city?
Memories.
Huh?
Memories.
You go. You love that city?
As your lawyer, I'm telling you not to comment at all.
Hey, come on. I'm just saying. I love that city. So, see, now. Okay, anyway, Taylor. So Taylor asked this question. I listened to the business episode and really enjoyed it. It was very different from other episodes. Are you doing more episodes like that? So first of all, thanks for the question, Taylor. And again, man, shout out to old friends in past lives in Montreal. So to answer your question, Taylor, we will definitely have more episodes like that one. I think that was episode 136. I'm assuming that's the episode you're referring to. What was it called? Rich Spartans, House of Billionaires, and a monopoly called the NBA. Anyway, my interest in the business of basketball has really peaked in recent years. I pay as much attention to that side of the sport as I do the on-court products. So the timing of this question is perfect because I have a great example of things happening in the business of the NBA. And it's this recent multi-year deal that the league signed with a consumer data firm. I should say data firm. Stellar Algo. You guys hear about this? The league signs a multi-year deal with Stellar Algo. They sign multi-year deals all the time, but this is different because Stellar Algo is a startup and the NBA is taking an ownership stake in the firm. So this move was all about growing the league's investment arm, NBA Equity, which is headed by David Lee. So I'm not sure how many people know that the NBA has an investment portfolio, an investment arm that actively seeks out investment targets in sectors like apparel, merchandising, fitness, fan engagement. Stellar Algo is an example of the investment in fan engagement. This would give the league and its franchises access to fan data services for the purposes of things like e-commerce, ticketing, social media. And I mean, the league is doing this more often. They've already invested in New Era. If you love hats, you know about New Era. The NBA is also invested in So Rare fantasy gaming. And I think this thing called the Zigazoo social network for kids, just to name a few. But this is something that the NBA is actually doing. So it's not just about basketball anymore. It's like, they're investing in startups. So, hey, if you have a great idea, then contact Mr. Silver or contact Mr. Lee. Thank you again for the question, Taylor. And just a quick reminder to High and Low Lives, if you want to leave a question for us to answer on the show, drop a DM on TikTok. We're at More High and Low. And on Instagram, we're at Get High and Low. Links are in the show notes, as usual. Feels like a good time to take a break. So let's put this segment in an alien mask and throw it in the middle of a crowd of flat earthers. When we come back, we're listing the NBA's most unpopular opinions. Don't be triggered. We'll be right back with more High and Low. And we are back. I'm Ike Amaechi, and I'm here with special guest Ugo the Sheik and King from Parts Unknown. So in the world of sports, opinions are like holes. Everybody has one. And they love to share those opinions with anyone and everyone willing to listen or to read or to watch. So what we call NBA Twitter, really, it's just an endless string of takes. Some are of the popular variety and just an amplification of the people's opinion. Others are quite unique and informative in nature. And, it's thought-provoking. And then there are the unpopular opinions that those are the takes that feel like such a contrast to what you would think a fan with a decent amount of basketball knowledge would think. So many of these opinions are manufactured for the sole purpose of getting a reaction any reaction, because that's what it's all about, right? Doing it for clout, Today, we're sharing the unpopular opinions. Some you might have heard of, others brand new to your earlobes. As mentioned before, this segment comes with a trigger warning, just in case the very thought of anyone saying anything negative about your favorite team makes you sick to your stomach. Then, yes, you're warned. So let's get into it. King.
Yeah, man.
What's your first unpopular opinion?
It's the increasing influence of super agents, specifically Rich Paul.
Wow.
The increasingly popular, influence they have and the way they're swaying immense players to make movements in the league, it's dictating negotiations and it's ruining the league. It's more about who's representing the artist than the actual, the way the chips stack up to actually win a championship. There's another game within a game which is ruining the actual game that's supposed to be, which is move to where you could win, not move to where your super agent is telling you have to go play with AD.
Ooh, I got something that ties into that perfectly.
It's kind of like how in hip hop when Puffy was ruining hip hop, right?
Talk to him.
You gotta let the little areas grow naturally. Don't start taking your power that you got from letting Biggie die and just ruin at half of hip hop.
Bad boy.
Can't stop, won't stop.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Let me just piggyback on that for a second, because I have another opinion that might be, it's an unpopular opinion, but I think it's somewhat tied to that. I think the NBA's emphasis on personal player branding has really diminished the team aspect of the game.
I like this right here.
So I think that can be tethered to the point that you're making, to your unpopular opinion. I mean, the NFL really is the antithesis of this. It markets the league, not the players. The NBA kind of creates and perpetuates this ego. Athletes are already placed on a pedestal, but the league celebrates and rewards individualism, really. And I mean, this has been the NBA's greatest strength since, going back to the 80s with Magic and Bird. I mean, those two revitalized the league, but the league has struggled to find balance since then. It's kind of recycled the same strategy every, 10 to 15 years. Identify a face of the league, sell the product with that face, multiply that by 30 for every market, and then rinse and repeat. Ugo, King shared his unpopular opinion. I've shared mine. What is yours?
I'm gonna go back to the well on this one, and listen, Sam Presti's not a genius. He's gaming the system. That team is not trying to win squat. All they want to do is continually get first round draft picks, middle and diddle, and do whatever they want to do. And listen, you see Shea Alexander, whatever his name, they're gonna just let him go. Oh man, you can keep make up some excuse, and away they go.
But it's failing this year, man. They're 2 games under 500.
Listen, there's still time. Watch.
All right, Sam Presti, you're not a genius. Unpopular opinion or popular opinion? I don't know. I think it's unpopular right now, but that might change. All right, King, what's your next one?
My next one is that globalization is destroying the NBA. There's a distinct part of the American culture that came out in the games early on when the NBA was growing, and those themes have been ruined and they're no longer expressed through the players and the championship runs of these teams. It's a totally different message and theme when you're watching these teams compete, and it's not the way it used to be, where it would be the West versus the East or the Atlantic Division versus the other division. Now it's just whoever we drafted from whatever country is now here, and it's a trade deal to get point A to point B.
Interesting.
It's nauseating.
Interesting.
I miss the word Seattle meaning something. I miss the states of these teams meaning something, and now it's too globalized. It doesn't mean anything.
Too globalized.
Yeah. It's not Detroit.
Wow.
It's not Detroit playing Miami anymore. Right?
I would say it's the opposite. So we're gonna go on opposite sides of this one. I'm gonna say that it's the exact opposite. I think that the NBA has been trying to globalize the game of basketball, but I don't think it's working. I think let's look at soccer, for example, right? We just had the World Cup, right? That's a global sport. 250 million people play the sport, 200 different countries. You think of the high level of football being played in various leagues across Europe alone. Just look at Europe alone, right? You got the Premier League in England, you got the Spanish La Liga in Spain, Bundesliga in Germany, French League One, Italian Serie A, like all featuring like the best talent in the world. It's not like the best talent go over to just one of those leagues and then you kind of have these tertiary leagues. It's spread all across. The NBA has been flaunting its expansion strategy since like the early 90s, and yet there's still one major league in the world. The NBA should be positioned like FIFA. This is just my opinion, popular or not, and overseeing many different leagues around the world. And then each of those leagues would boast equally incredible talent. Now that's expansion. I don't think the NBA is expanding. They're not. They have NBA Africa, yes, but that is still very much in its infancy. But I think the NBA is just like this pocketed in North America. That's it. They have talented players coming from all over the world, but they all come to just one league in 1.01 countries.
It could get worse though. You could lose all the inherent competitiveness between a Detroit and a Boston, or a Boston and LA. You're losing
It's
that.
already gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
And it wasn't really there for very long. Like it
No,
was
no, there was
and then it disappeared.
Yeah, that was part of why the league was fun to watch. To see different states go at each other.
Well, you just dated yourself.
It's all good.
Those teams haven't been good. Right? Detroit hasn't been good for a long time, and it's only recently that Boston's been half decent.
But it's part of the narrative.
Besides
It was
KG
about
It's 20 years.
It's about the states going at each other or the cities going at each other. It wasn't about whoever they've drafted and who was on the team. Right? That local geographic. The reason you come to the stadium and cheer, it's your own hometown, right? It was Boston, their team, their fans versus the other place. That's gone.
Yeah, but if you have a whack team, what are you cheering, bro? Like the allegiance is not that strong, especially if you're that bad. See, that's what happens when you're in Toronto. Like it's a completely different mentality. In the States, they're like, "This you ain't winning, so I'm not watching you. Who cares?"
All right, you guys, what's next?
Let's hear from Ugo. What's your unpopular opinion?
That sports analysts really matter during games.
Sports analysts?
Yes, and color commentators, all those guys. Like, I've some games. I've sat in stadiums where you don't hear these individuals. I really don't miss them. Like, I mean, I like me some Mark Jackson and Van Gundy with the little jokes and stuff like that, but I could watch this game without their jibber jabber. I don't need it. So it's like really like. I mean, I guess you have to fill in the time with TV for your commercials and all that other production stuff. But I mean, I could watch a game on TV without. I mean, he's a dope dude, but I don't have to hear Jack Armstrong or any of those guys talk. Like, I don't need to hear
Jack
Doris
Armstrong
Burke.
coming up for.
I don't need to hear Doris Burke or anything. I don't have to hear JR.
Who the hell is that?
Or no disrespect, Vince Carter or any of those cats. Like I don't need to hear. I mean, I wouldn't mind hearing Barkley and Kenny Smith because they'll give you some jokes about like players and that kind of stuff. But I could do without it. I really don't think you need it, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think you do, man. Especially if you're not watching every single game, you're just trying to get caught back up on the culture and caught back up on what's going on in the NBA. It's almost like a CP24 broadcast on what's happening so far in the NBA. Like about the fight with Shannon Sharp, about this fight, about this thing, and that's all you need to do is listen to the commentators talk for about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like whatever happened in the NBA, you'd hear about during that game.
Yeah, but you can get enough of that from Twitter and all that stuff.
Agreed.
Right now. Like,
I'm not debating that, but I'm just saying without that. I can tune into a game for maybe 5 minutes. I can get caught up on what Shannon Sharp did, get caught up on the massage gun.
You're there to watch a game.
But I want to get caught up on the news. Yeah, the game and the news are connected, right? The players are playing the game. The news about the players are part of the game. I just want to be caught up. If they're not talking, it's going to take forever to catch up.
Yeah, I don't know. Most of the time I hear them talking about how players are salty that they didn't get a call or whatever. I'm like, I can see that for myself. You don't need to tell me that, Captain Obvious.
True.
Right?
True.
And you know the other thing that's useless too? That stupid interview that they do halftime and between quarters where they have to ask like 3 questions to the coaches and stuff. The stupidest things ever. So, coach, you're down by 10 points. What do you think you have to do to win the game?
They're getting ready for playoffs, man.
All right.
I got another one.
So, you got another one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Give me another one before we go to break.
Load management. Load management has become like the auto-tune of the NBA experience. You think you're buying tickets to see a specific player, but all over the league, people are being load managed, so you're just getting the auto-tune version of what you came to see. It's horrible. You'll see them wearing dress clothes or street clothes and not even playing because they've established that this is just something that's going to happen in the league. Load management. It's like auto-tuning the NBA experience. It's horrible. They could just if they could dial back time and go back to that first incident and get rid of it, the league experience would be better for everyone, all fans everywhere.
Well, you got to blame the Spurs.
And T-Pain for auto-tuning, yeah. It's ruining things.
So I don't know how unpopular that is, but it's also very specific. There's a very specific NBA fan that this impacts. It's the NBA fan that actually attends the games. NBA tickets are not necessarily all that cheap, depending on the city that you're watching the game in. So, it's an event. You plan your week or maybe your month around that particular activity. And so the lead up to that, there's a lot, for some people who, let's say they have a family, they've got to make arrangements so that they can have someone watch their kid, or their spouse or their partner will watch the kid while they go out with their boys to the game. And they get to the game and the 2 top players in the game are not even there.
Yep.
That's rough because maybe you bought those tickets because you wanted to watch LeBron James and Steph Curry play, or you wanted to watch Giannis and Nikola Jokic play.
Yeah, it's not about the popcorn, man.
But they're being load managed for that one particular game. So for them, it's like as this 1 of 82. For you, it's like, nah, I'm only watching 2 games live this year, and now you're telling me that I have to watch MPJ? Hell yeah, that's an exciting experience. Of course, for me, but for the average person, they, for the casual, they're like, no Nikola Jokic, man, this is garbage. I want my refund.
It's a horrible error. I hope at one point people are like, you know what? We can't do this anymore. We're not paying for season tickets. And so we're guaranteed no load management on our star players.
Yeah. Let's hear from you when we go to break.
Like those awards, those new awards that they have, they're not going to mean squat 5 years from now.
Is that unpopular?
I think they really think it's going to mean something. People are just, they're advertising it hard, like making it like it's going to matter. Like nobody's going to care who won the East and who won the West or who the Eastern Conference MVP is.
The Kobe Award? What about the Kobe Award?
Whatever they want to call it. Like nobody's going to care. The awards look whack. Nobody is going to care about these things. It's always going to come down to the big 3. MVP, Finals MVP, and did you win the championship? Period. Adding all this more hardware, like first of all, God bless their soul that they named it after all these 80s players, but again, I digress. It's like why does this matter? Like, are players going to get more money out of it? I hope it's in the collective bargaining agreement and they tweak the Derrick Rose rule. You know what I mean? But outside of that, who's like defensive player of the year? I get it. Okay, fine. But some of these other ones, like, East, West, most wins or whatever, nobody cares about
clutch
that nonsense. Clutch. Listen, how do you even calculate clutch? That's what I would love to see. That is going to be a bigger debate than LeBron versus Jordan.
It's a real thing. That's what really matters.
I can't do it without you, okay? So
yeah, that's what really matters.
Whatever, right? But
I would call it the Reggie Miller Award.
Why not Robert Horry?
Well, he's taking advantage of the situation, right? Reggie creates the situation. There's a difference.
Don't get me started on Robert Horry. But
Robert,
this is what I'm saying.
He's receiving a pass, dude, and shooting it. That's not clutch.
Listen, all of those awards aren't going to matter nothing. Defensive Player of the Year, as that's probably the most true award next to MVP because they actually have to work on it, and there's actually statistics that can show that you were that effective. Mind you, they could always be skewed, but all the other ones, like, yeah, best team in the East, best team in the West, get out of here. Nobody cares about that crap.
And the one award that I haven't seen, which I'm very surprised that I haven't seen at this point, especially when they announced all these new ones, is the scoring title. I guess because there's no voting involved. It's just if you score the most points, if you average them, then you win the award automatically. That
actually makes sense. That one actually makes sense.
Give the person a trophy, man. Like in hockey, in the NHL, the person who scores the most points gets the Art Ross trophy. It's been happening for 50, 60 years. But in the NBA, if you win the scoring title, they just say that you've won the scoring title. That's it. As opposed to just saying, hey, that's the, I don't know, Bernard King trophy or the Wilt Chamberlain trophy. Actually, that should be the Wilt Chamberlain trophy, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Replace Clutch with that one.
Yeah. Like Clutch over a scoring title? Come on, bro. Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we will continue with some unpopular opinions. Again, trigger warning. We'll be right back. More High and Low. And we are back. This is High and Low. I'm here with Ugo the Sheik, and I'm here with King from Parts Unknown. We're just sharing our unpopular opinions, and let's continue, man. Let's keep this going. King, you got one for me?
The super teams. The super team phenomenon. Multiple all-stars joining forces in one team is detrimental to parity. It puts only a few teams into the contention every year, and the other teams don't have the star power. If you think about having a super team, it's not like Wu-Tang where everyone can be awesome and then do their own separate careers later. It's just a flash of the pan, a short period of time when one team is really popular because they took from a whole bunch of other teams. So it takes away from the scope of the NBA. It forces it onto a group of maybe 4 key teams. And nobody wants to watch that. People want to watch, the entire league compete every night.
Okay. I'll give you credit because this was one that I similarly picked, but for different reasons. My unpopular belief is that, people think that super teams, it's not fair and somehow they're going to win more games and I don't believe that. Like, if we go over the history of the game, like, super teams have not really been that successful. If anything, super teams have been utterly embarrassed by statistically inferior teams. So, you get a super team, you pay that luxury tax. And we won't use Golden State because they've been quite organic with how they've gotten players and developed them. But all these superstars coming together to win a chip hasn't really panned out as well as people think that it should. We have prime examples of it right now. KD and Kyrie, Kawhi and Paul George. Like, they ain't sniffing nothing, right? And they're supposed to be like superstars on super teams. Okay, if you say so, pal. Lakers. They won that bubble championship, but since then they've been atrocious. You know what I mean? Like,
shots
are they real? But it's true, right? That's the whole reason why you got those people to double down with Russ. Think, oh man, we got 3 top 75s. These MVPs, legendary players. Man, these guys are swirling in the toilet bowl right now. We're celebrating LeBron's. We're celebrating LeBron's points. Not even any sniff of him winning a championship this year, but his points, man. Come on, how embarrassing is that?
It's a good point, man. It's funny. I was thinking about what you said about the bubble championship, and I thought to myself, that's part of that Rich Paul problem, right? Super agents, super teams. It's all a problem. And there's one more thing that's even worse than all of that. And you keep on hinting at it. It's statistics. It's the increased use of advanced statistics. It's this undercurrent. It's like ghostwriting in hip hop. It's ruining the league because you have Daryl creating a Houston team that's only about shooting threes. And then you have Spoelstra, who just focuses on what he thinks is going to win games statistically. The intangible qualities of leadership and real teamwork are all gone from the league.
All right, you guys, what's next?
It's painful.
Yeah,
to watch.
analytics. Do this, do that, and you'll probably win the game.
Yes,
Okay, but
people
why
are
am I
playing-
doing it? Because you'll probably win the game. Right? There's no logic, really. I agree with you.
It's ruining it. It's ruining it. Like ghostwriting.
Yeah.
I want the artist to be there. I want it to be genuine.
Yeah.
Like I think I saw a
Ooh, I
game the
have
other day with
another one,
Bullet.
too.
What if the
Just
artist
noticed that
sucks?
Yeah, well, I saw Bullet get it.
What if they can't write for squat? What if they can't
That's true
write?
too.
Then in my
A lot of
league,
rappers
where there
can't
isn't
write.
in my league where there's no ghostwriting, they don't have a position. They're gone. Right? If you're not genuine, you're out.
Some of the ghostwriting that happens in hip hop has never been discovered. Like it's never been uncovered. So if you say, okay, no more ghostwriting,
Yeah,
I
and
just
that
want
means
the real rappers.
absolutely, and that means
That,
all
that,
the
could, that
teams.
could affect you. That could affect you in more ways than you think.
I'm okay with it. Like all the Strausses, all the players that are in the league that are only there to do one thing statistically, they all have to go. All of them. Even Steph Curry's brother, Seth, who technically can't do all the stuff Steph does, he has to go.
What?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so harsh.
Wow.
What did he do?
Everybody has to
This
go.
guy throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Everybody has to go. The league, the art, the sport that is basketball does not need analytics and does not need decision making that's triggering draft choices, triggering team choices. It should be just the original art. Who do I want to play with? That guy. Oh, statistically, he shoots better threes. Put Strauss on my team. Nah. Off. Gone.
Yeah. The art is all about what is it? They call it gut instinct.
I test.
It's like, why are we drafting this guy? Ugh. There's something about this kid. Trust me, he's got it. What does it mean? You got to see this kid play. You're gonna feel it. What does feel mean? What are you talking about? How many points does he average per game? 16. But that's not important. He just has that gumption, little intangibles. You can't measure them. You can't measure that sort of talent. It's like, come on,
can't measure it because it's not there.
Exactly. Yeah. He comes in and he's a bust. Yeah, because he averaged 16 a game in high school.
Winning a championship is not about numbers. Winning a championship is not about numbers. Just ask PJ Tucker.
No, numbers matter. Numbers matter. But
at this point in the NBA, those are just table stakes, right? Everyone can shoot. There's some people that can't shoot free throws when they're trying with their left hand, but it doesn't matter. The point is everyone can do a little something. At this point, we need to get to the intangibles of a team so they can lead. Look at this. Look at Philly, man. They got Harden. They got Embiid. They had Jimmy Butler. They're useless. They can't even figure out what they want to be. I can't even watch them, man.
Well, see, now you gave me two more to talk about. So
sorry, I'm truly getting irritated with the league right now. Like I want to be a Philly fan, but I can't. I want to be a Philly fan, but I can't. Like I saw Harden go to Irving the other day. I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. Both these guys are deflated. They're not even their normal selves.
Who? Kyrie Irving?
Yeah, Irving and Harden the other day when they're playing against each other.
Playing pretty good. Kyrie's balling pretty hard right now.
Kyrie's been balling, man. He's open. He's open, man. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, man?
He gonna get that bag. That's what they're talking about.
Exactly. Kyrie is in his bag right now.
There was no animosity. There was no energy. The both of them are just, I don't know, man, going through the motions. That game should have.
Kyrie the best player. Kyrie the best player on flat Earth right now, man.
Right. He's the best player on the Nets right now because KD's not there, and Harden's the best player on Philly. But that game didn't look like anything like that.
Whoa.
Wow. Disrespectful and reckless at the same time.
And
irresponsible.
And incorrect. That's like three strikes. You're out.
Embiid's okay.
You better talk to your chap GPT there. It's taking you on a path that's not righteous.
Embiid's okay, but he'll get hurt.
This guy said Embiid's okay.
But he'll get hurt.
I'm going to drop an unpopular opinion right now. This involves a player that has become more polarizing over the years. Kobe Bryant. So he retired in 2016? And up until that point, I think it was a common opinion that Kobe was a top 10 player. Now, not so much. I would categorize it as an unpopular opinion. to say that Kobe is a top 10 player. However, it's a valid take because here's what I have to say to those who would disagree with the idea of Kobe being a top 10 player of all time. I know several people, some people on this podcast, that put Kobe on the outside of the top 10 based on metrics alone, just stats. So sure, he's a high volume shooter, or he was. His advanced stats were less than stellar in comparison to other players in the top 10 range. But these same people put Jordan above LeBron. And we alluded to this earlier. Statistically speaking, LeBron's exceeded Jordan statistically. But those same people would argue to the last breath that Jordan's rings put him over the top. They would also tell you that Jordan's impact, which is immeasurable, that warrants that number one spot. Can't argue with that. But if you can't argue with that, that means you can't argue with the fact that Kobe would be considered a top 10 player by those same variables. Rings, he's got them. Impact, got it. Kobe's influence over this cohort of NBA players is similar to how MJ influenced a generation before. And Kobe's legend will only grow from here.
You think it'll grow?
Absolutely. I'm sad to say this, but it's his passing that has expanded his legend exponentially. Like he's now become this mythical figure, you know.
Saint Kobe.
He's sort of elevated as a result of that. And I think because of that, his legend will grow. It will.
Yeah, he'll always be inspirational for players forever. He'll never go away.
Yeah,
I think so. I think Kobe, because Kobe represents drive. He represents the player that it's like.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like
he surpassed the person. He's an ideal.
He's not exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Fun fact: do you guys know that Kobe's uncle played in the NBA?
Yeah,
This guy,
Italian guy. Oh no, it's uncle. Yeah. It's in the documentary.
yeah.
They talked about it in the documentary.
I didn't know that.
You remember his name? His mom's brother played 7 games in the NBA. Played for the Washington Bullets back in like 82, 83. 6'2", shooting guard. Coincidentally drafted by the Bulls back in the 8th round of the 78 draft. Listen, the highlight of this information is the guy's name. Chubby Cox.
Why the fuck I can't shoot 3-point shots?
That brings us to the end of this episode of High and Low. Thank you, Ugo. Thank you, King. Subscribe to High and Low anywhere you find podcasts. Make us a part of your weekly routine. You know where to find us. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. Links to all of those channels are in our show notes. So where can listeners find you, Ugo? Not Jamaica. But,
not Jamaica, unfortunately. At the buffet, getting some stewed chicken, jerk chicken, and all the fixings and patties and whatnot. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been on IG, so I completely forgot my handle. So you can't find me there until I remember what it is. So come back next week and I'll let you know where I'm at. But DM me if you know who I am.
All right, and King. Do you know where you can find Ugo? Do you want to remind them? But where can they find you?
I don't think he's on TikTok yet, so.
No.
Hell no.
Yeah, you got problems. I'm still on TikTok, Media Kingdoms, MEDIAKINGDOMS. Putting some stuff up with Chat GPT before I replace myself.
Goodness. Wow. Replace yourself.
Yeah.
Once again, music is a buy. Live at the Enjoy Music Group. You can find live on Twitter and on Instagram at LYVE. Additional music is by Sonny Rockwell of The Goodness. You can't find that guy anywhere. I've tried. Believe me. Sound design is by Vonn+Abrahamm. This is a Vonn+Abrahamm podcast, just in case you didn't know. So on behalf of Ugo the Sheik and King from Parts Unknown, thank you for listening to High and Low this week. We'll see you next week. We'll talk to you next week.